The Royal Society of London obtained the use of Challenger from the Royal Navy and in 1872 modified the ship for scientific work, equipping her with separate laboratories for natural history and chemistry. The expedition sailed from Portsmouth, England on the 21st of December, 1872. The ship was called Challenger, and it took temperature readings of various depths of the ocean. And those temperature readings can be compared to modern day and several readings taken in between there, those two extremes, to produce a chart, which he says, and I couldn't see the chart, but which he says shows that the Earth's oceans have increased in heat such that the temperature has risen a half a degree Celsius. And he says this is because of carbon dioxide emissions from human activity. And he's supposedly a scientist, and he either doesn't know or is lying that the heat capacity of the oceans are extremely deep, and they cover most of the surface of this planet. The Pacific alone covers nearly half the planet. It takes a lot of heat to warm. Matter of fact, he probably knows this, that say the ocean average depth is a mile or more. Well, the top few meters of that water can contain more heat than the total height of the atmosphere above it. The ocean holds a lot more heat, like 90%. And I believe he made a comment like that in his talk, that to understand the climate, you should understand the ocean temperature because it dominates. That is where the heat gets stored. Yet he said at the end, and I'm repeating, that he surmises that the oceans began to warm over 135 years ago because of human activity. In other words, he's saying that when steel mills in England back in the year 1800 and 1850, 1880, in factories, first in England and then some in the United States, industrialization began to put carbon dioxide in the air because of burning coal. And now we burn coal and natural gas and gasoline. But back then, originally, it was coal. The burning of coal in the space of 100 years, as little as it was at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, was sufficient to warm the atmosphere, sufficient to warm the ocean. I say that's a physical impossibility because the heat in the ocean came from the sun. All the atmosphere can do is retard the transfer of that heat from the ocean to the outer space, either through a greenhouse effect of water vapor or through the reflective properties of clouds blocking the sunlight from entering and thus cooling the planet. Water vapor both cools and warms the planet in response to ocean heat. Atmospheric heat supposedly trapped by greenhouse gases, supposedly created and put into the atmosphere 200 years ago, is nowhere near powerful enough to warm the atmosphere enough to have a noticeable effect on the oceans.